Nothing yet? Okay. I hate StreamYard. Anyway, it is slightly afternoon on the East Coast here. It's Friday the 20th. Damn, I think we're a day away from actual spring now or something. Maybe we are in spring. I don't know. Anyway, this is the Small Biz Breakdown. I'm Brent Leary, and as we like to do, actually, I should just say as I like to do, I like to bring on some folks that I like, trust. They know their stuff. We like to talk about what's going on, and we usually start from way out west. I've officially changed his name from Leland McFarland to Leland from Oregon. Hey, Leland.
Hey, Brent. It's good to be here. We missed the last week, which was Friday the 13th. So we just you could have had two Friday the 13th in a row, but we missed one.
You sound very broken up about that, Leland.
I was flying, so I had other worries. It's like Friday the 13th and you're flying. That's not a good combination.
That's usually, but you made it safely, so we're glad for that. Let's keep moving further. Well, actually, just east, because you can't really move further east from where you are. Everything is further east, I guess, actually. Anyway, we are making our usual pit stop into lovely Gary, Indiana, with Pierre, with his last name starting with D.
I'll take that. Good afternoon, everybody. And happy that sad that we missed the last Friday 13th, but happy that we are, and Brent, I agree with you, we are a day away from spring. So
okay, we are officially. So what's the weather like in Gary right now?
Actually spring-like, which is good. We had a snowstorm. I think it was Monday or Tuesday or so. We had a very brief snowstorm, but it was one of those weird things where if you woke up at 4 o'clock, a lot of snow, or relatively a lot of snow, and then by literally like 10 o'clock, like if anything that wasn't in a shadow had melted off.
All right, my first question is, why the hell are you waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning? That doesn't seem too cool to me, but you know,
ready to rock and roll with data any time of the night. So,
all righty. and Leland, is it spring-like out in Oregon?
Yeah, it was pretty delightful over here.
Oh, delightful! All right, got delightful. We got happiness at 4 in the morning, and now we're moving to our nation's capital. And as usual, absolutely nothing is going on in our nation's capital, but there is a smile always in our nation's capital, and it comes from Shashi Bellamkonda. Hey, Shashi.
Hey, everybody. So glad to join you on this fine, as Pierre said, fine spring morning. The forsythia bushes have started turning yellow. That's like good news for me.
Isn't it the peach? What do they call it? Is it the peach blossoms or some kind of blossom? Cherry blossoms, isn't it? Cherry blossoms in DC?
Are they starting to bloom? Haven't started yet, but you can see the maple, buds start flowering. So,
all right,
it's a nice time to visit.
And usually this time, I would say the transition to the nation's capital was the vacation capital of the universe or the galaxy or something like that. But Mr. Ramon Ray is not available with us right now. And we also missed our pit stop into magical, mystical Medina for Madam Mike Drop herself. I know there's another M in there somewhere, but I just can't remember it. But she is not able to make it with us today. So the
place where meteorites also like to visit.
There's another M. Meteorites like to visit. All right, there it is. All right. So usually I spit a couple of facts out about what's happened this past week. And I mean, there is definitely no shortage of facts, but I just saw one today okay, so I'll just say it. So it looks like as of either yesterday or today, we crossed over, meaning the U.S. Total amount of debt in the U.S. crossed over to $39 trillion this week.
Wow.
Every day it adds a certain amount to that number. What would you guess that daily amount of net debt that gets added to that total? What do you think every day? What amount of debt comes in? Take a guess.
5 billion.
Okay,
I'm
5
gonna say
million.
70 billion.
You're gonna say 70 billion. Wow. Okay. So it was Shashi. We got a pretty big a disparity there between 5 from Leland and 70 from Pierre. Where do you land in there?
So I'm thinking logically, I think the Defense Department or whatever it's called now wanted 200 billion, and let's assume it's for the next 2 months. So that's about 3 billion a day, if my math is right.
Okay, so we got 3, we got 5, and we got 70.
And Pierre, you're the analytics guy, so
yeah, and he's one
I'm
that's
rooting for you.
Number out there. Actually, can I lower my number to 55?
Sure, you can lower your number to 55 and you still be way off. But
yeah, no, I'll keep that.
The actual number is $7.2 billion of debt added every day.
Wow.
So you think about that, that's about 220 billion a month. And that means
two bridges a day.
Yeah. So basically every 5 months we're adding $1 trillion of debt.
Wow. And we were supposed to reduce it, right?
I think so, day one. All right. So with that in mind, and let alone all the other things that are going on, how are you guys feeling this week? Let's who wants to start us off? Ramon can't do it today because he's not here. So who else is gonna do it?
Come on, Pierre. You were not here last week.
Nobody was here last week.
Nobody was here last week. I wasn't.
About feeling about the economy in general, just kind of like where we are
in the economy, you know, whatever else is going on that is out there. What do you?
I think we're still. I think there's still optimism among small businesses, but at the same time, still worrying just because of the war. I think we're starting. I'll tell you one thing that concerns me: price of gas. Seeing $4 gasoline here is a little scary. Or diesel had shot up originally over $5. I think people remain somewhat hopeful, as in I still need to get to Target, I still need to get to Walmart, I still need to get my car serviced, I still need to do my laundry. But I think we're going to start. I think give a couple more weeks and see how people really start feeling about what's going on in the economy. I think we'll start seeing a little bit more negative sentiment, basically, because we're starting to see things hitting our wallet quite a bit. I definitely notice, like for groceries, things are high. Even a Pop-Tart feels like a luxury now. So,
damn, that's pretty bad. A Pop-Tart feels like a luxury. Jeez.
Strawberry or chocolate, doesn't matter.
All right, Shashi, what about you?
This was a well-planned one. First, we took over the oil source, and then we are kind of stopping another oil source. So it balances out. You get what I'm saying? Venezuela is now our standby, right? But we did manage to worry the rest of the world, because from what I'm hearing about India is like people have to bring their own lunches from home, because all the top companies who are like providing food say like, hey, we won't have this LPG gas anymore. Wow. So people are a little worried about that. And that's the reason why I think some of the Indian oil tankers are being allowed to go through the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, I think we should all prepare for either scenario, right? Like you said, fuel shortages. I'm hoping there is no other shortage that comes up. But the lucky thing is it's a capitalist economy. So everybody should worry about how they're going to earn more. So no matter what the price is, you can still afford it, if that makes sense, which might mean more inflation, right? But it's anybody's guess. I mean, we don't know what somebody 18 miles from me is thinking right now.
Leland from Oregon.
So yesterday I had two things done. I went and I got a dental procedure done, and then I went and I did taxes, and I don't know which one
Yikes!
hurt
More
more.
painful.
What a day there, Leland.
That's a tough guy move. There you go.
At least with the dental procedure, they give you a numbing agent. They help you, not feel the pain. Although the tax, if I would have gone on St. Patrick's Day, they were apparently giving away green beer or something like that, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's $1 million idea right there. Let's do booze and taxes. Get sloshed before you have to pay out a bunch of money.
And dentistry too. That'll work for dentistry.
I don't think the dentist. Oh man, that smells bad. But yeah, I mean, I was looking at like the stock market this morning, and yeah, it's going down, and there are some indications that we are not doing the best. But when you zoom out for 5 years, it's still higher than when it was 5 years ago by a long shot. So there is still the ability to correct if this operation in Iraq, not Iraq, Iran.
Iraq was 20 years ago, man.
But yeah,
you're right. There's still some activity on. You're using some of our bases there, I'm sure.
But yeah, if it can be resolved, hopefully with what the president says, let's do it quick and dirty. Hopefully, then things can balance out. I don't know. These wars seem to get drawn out longer than they really should. But yeah, I don't think we're in the panic mode still. I think that we need to kind of just see what happens, run your business the way that you're running it, buy the stuff that you need to buy, and then maybe just set a little bit aside just in case. But I don't think we're in the hunker down kind of phase quite yet.
Are you guys taking?
We should wish everybody a happy Nowruz, because in many parts of the world that's like a New Year kind of festival. So
say it again.
Happy Nowruz.
Happy Nowruz.
Happy Noodles.
All right. And happy to see Ivana. Hey, Ivana.
Hey.
We're missing you. We're missing you, but we hope everything is going well, and we see you next week. All right.
Yeah. I have a question for Leland. Do you do your own taxes?
I did it last year and I messed them up. I did TurboTax even, and I still messed it up. And so I actually amended mine this year before I did my 2025. I went to a tax person, and it was just as cheap as TurboTax to go to a tax person. And it wasn't like H&R Block. It was just an independent tax people. It wasn't a CPA. And because the business I kind of run, it's very simple. So it's not a complex thing that takes really a true CPA. And she found $1,300, and it cost me $300 to file it. So I came out ahead for the filing, and then I just gave her 2025, and an hour later she's like, okay, yeah.
Nice.
The reason I asked that question, this may be useful for small businesses, is always do what Leyland does, because the tax code has become so complicated that you don't know what allowances that you should be taking for your business and otherwise. So I'm glad you took an independent tax consultant. Yeah.
Well, and it's also about time. Your time is valuable. And it's like, I remember doing it the year before, and I spent hours and hours and hours on it. I was going and doing this, and I ran into errors, and it wasn't working right the way that it should. And I spent more time than I really should have. And that's something that I could have, easily spent my time on something else and potentially made that kind of money off of. So
I mean, I used to make that mistake where I would look at the $300 figure that somebody's charging me, not realizing that that's actually going to save me like $1,000, $2,000. So that's true.
Yeah.
It's like having Ivana here with us. She's giving her the silent mic drops. I like that.
Yeah, I definitely on a tax thing. I would say I've done it when I first started, and and Layla, don't feel alone. I actually there's at my end of it. I'm at a point where it's getting the help is starting to get more important because like what Sashi said, it does become hard to follow what things are coming up. I think that's one part of it, and you just it just there's a breaking point. I think as a business owner, you end up having to it just stops a lot more things than what you realize in a lot of ways. It takes a while, and it's one of those things. It's like boiling water. It's like you may not feel the heat until when you do feel it, you start coming out of it. So definitely don't feel alone. I would say that. I would say that to anybody really, because it's just one of those things that I think the plus side is kind of getting a little familiar with what things can happen, so that way you don't take the wrong tax advice. I've seen business owners getting bad tax advice.
Oh yeah.
And people on YouTube and on Instagram giving what I call like snippets of things that are maybe factual, but they don't have the other asterisk. So there are people who are pushing back on that now. But I think what Sashi said, it just gets to a point where you need some help to kind of get some guidance, so that way you're not spinning the wheels. But definitely don't. I would say to any business owner, don't feel alone at all, because it comes up over time.
Mm-hmm. And I could see some situations where, using TurboTax for business purpose might be okay. You got a couple of rentals or something small, a little side job or something to the effect where it's not like grand amount of money, but it's just a little bit of a side income or something like that, or you're just a contract worker. I could potentially see going that route for kind of more of on the smaller side. But when you start getting up to certain points, I think that having someone in your corner to be able to tell you, no, you need to do this. This is a good way to be able to save you some. Because when I was in my appointment with her, she was like, oh, you should, maybe look at having your kids on your payroll so that you could save a little bit of money and be able to put that into an IRA for them. And I've heard that advice before, but it's those little nuggets of information that you can kind of glean when you meet with someone one-on-one like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely get a accountant to do mine because, quite honestly, I was an accounting major. I didn't like it back then. So and I also wanted to have somebody that, if something goes wrong, he did it. He's the CPA. I'm just going along. So yeah, I know I don't know the ins and outs because, as Shashi mentioned, it changes a lot, and under this administration, it's really I think it's changed a lot, and I think it'll mostly change for the better for a lot of people, because it seems like there'll be more tax breaks or something like that. But it's hard to keep up with all that stuff, and I don't even want to try to keep up with all that stuff. So I think it's a good move if you're in business, like what Ivana said. She says the two most important or valuable people are my bookkeeper and the CPA. And there's some goodness to that statement. Now she says also, I don't hate this, but Mike, whatever his last name is, profit first, has actual accountants are brilliant and will literally guarantee profitability. It's first pay yourself your profits and budget after. I never had a mine guarantee that, but okay, that'd be great. If that were the case, that'd be great.
I think one thing I wanted to mention from Ivana's comment is also, don't just go to your whoever is advising you only during tax time. Try to touch base with them 1 or 2 times during the year, so that sometimes you made a mistake, didn't have enough deductions, and then at the end of the year, you're, instead of getting a refund, you're actually having to pay a lot of money. Happened to me, so trying to give that advice too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm kind of circling back a little bit when you hear all this debt talk and how much is out there. Does that impact your thinking at all? We're not talking about your personal debt, but I don't know, maybe you might be interested in going for a loan for the business, or you're just wondering how that impacts like interest rates personally. But when you hear the debt, the amount of debt, like credit card debt and just overall debt, how does that personally impact the way you approach what you do from a professional business standpoint?
I think for me, there's two things I do. I wouldn't call myself a tightwad, but I do try to plan out a lot of things in terms of what I'm going to spend and when that spend will happen. Um, and it could be things in terms of events I go to, thinking about am I going to a webinar versus traveling out someplace, like I'm getting ready to do a conference where I deliver a workshop. I'll plan the things where I know I can kind of put some sort of budget aside for something. And I'm very cautious also. It also makes me cautious about clients a little bit too. I had to learn the hard way that a lot of times clients will they want to hire you, but they are not really ready to pull the trigger on a project. Sometimes there may be something financial going on, and that can be a little bit of a difficult conversation. You don't want to push somebody to spend, but at the same time, if you're a small business owner or if you have a small team, it can be a little hard to kind of hold a place for somebody to be ready, like, hey, we need to put some dates down here. But I think for me personally, I do try to be very careful about how I spend. And I'm very critical about it. I found that I try to push hard through the year so that way I'm not getting into December and trying to find extra money when I know that people have already locked in their budgets and they may not be looking at anything. The only thing they're thinking about is, eggnog between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Those sort of things can happen. And they can be good lessons of learning about trying to figure out how to plan as much as possible. Not all plans are perfect, but you have to kind of, it's just like a football game. You have certain, where the lines are. You kind of need to know where you need to go, and you kind of need to plan yourself as best as you can to keep that pocket so that way you can throw the ball and get that victory.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great statement. It's a double-edged sword, the credit. Like, for example, I wanted to post this on a private chat yesterday. Among the top airports in the world, there's not a single US airport. Now, when the airports were created, they were probably the best, but not anymore because like 30, 40 years have passed. Even if you look at Washington, D.C., most powerful capital in the world, the airport, some of the new terminals are okay, but most of the others are quite bad, and those people carriers and all of that don't make the experience better. So if in order to improve these, the government will have to spend, right? Now it will have to spend, it's part of the credit. And I think subsequent governments have always tried to reduce the debt, and it's definitely going to cause pain. I do remember I think probably between 20 and 22, most of the roads in the areas that I was going, there was no money to repair them. So even in the good highways, you'd find potholes and everything else. I don't remember when the government started spending for infrastructure. You saw the times when like bridges were falling and things like that, right? So the only way the government can manage this is probably increasing the taxes, which is not a popular move. They'll never do that. So how do you balance your budget? And I think the US government doesn't have to balance the budget, it's just allocation, right? Somebody decides, hey, here's 200 million, go spend it. And the best thing is they are incented to spend everything, meaning at the end of the year, there shouldn't be any balance left, which I think is wrong. If somebody has managed to save money, they should be able to give it back. But that doesn't exist, and it's probably not in the rules, right? You have to spend. This is not only the US, like almost every country in the world that has a measurable economy is spending more than what they earn. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm just stating what is probably obvious, but it's going to be painful when they try to balance it, like it was at the beginning of last year or whenever they started going the wrong path to try to reduce the debt.
Wow. But if we're adding $1 trillion every 5 months, that's pretty rough.
Well, and it's so much now that it's like you can't just sit there and say, okay, let's just cut 2 trillion a year, because then we would never get out of debt. So you basically have to say, okay, we have to cut 4 trillion or something like that, so that we have like $1.5 trillion to be able to put into the debt to be able to bring it down. That's, you know, it would be nearly impossible. One thing that I heard, it was a politician, his idea was like, okay, every department within the United States government every year has to reduce their budget by 1%. Not 10%, not 20%, just 1% every year. We're going to start shrinking the budgets every year. And eventually, over the course of 10 years, now you've gotten down to 10%. After 15 years, you've gotten to 15%. So I would, I'd like that. It's like we've ramped ourselves up slowly. So let's start reducing ourselves slowly and trying to find ways to save the money, putting in policies to where, as Shashi said, it's not detrimental to you if you don't spend all your money. In fact, maybe you get yourself a nice little pat on the back for actually saving cost. And then I know that it hasn't gotten to the point where it should, but getting rid of fraud is probably a really good thing to do. Finding those government organizations, I can't remember the name of the organization, but there was one organization that within the government that was just 100% almost all fraud. Like the person that was the head of it had its own private bathroom with a shower and everything like that.
The guy head of finding fraud had all that going on?
No, it wasn't the guy who was finding the fraud. It was like the government agency. I forgot which one it was, but he had like his own private bathroom, and like no one was doing real work. It was a real sketchy aspect of the government that it's like, why are we spending money on this? And the money was just not going anywhere. But finding where billions of dollars are going that shouldn't, that's not a bad thing.
I want to pop up this comment from Evan, because I was thinking the same thing. What about raising income? Because there's two ways to take out debt: lower your costs and find new revenue. And from a small business point, as we always talk about AI, are most small businesses looking at AI from a cost reduction perspective? Do they think if we use AI, we're going to cut costs or be more efficient? Or are they thinking AI is going to make them more money? Because it feels like that part of the conversation has to be a part of the overall equation with the debt stuff too, right?
I agree to that. I think the short answer is I don't think they are looking at it from a cost reduction. Even though you can, there's a lot of things from an analytics standpoint that you can actually take and I built a model just a week ago where you can take data, import it into our programming, kind of sort through the data, and then you can bring the language model into that analysis and have it do the query and ask some questions. I don't think people are getting to that point because they see like most technology, people are being sold on what the potential is for all these things that it can do for you personally, produce more content, streamline some of your operations to some degree. And even when you talk about streamlining, you would think that there'd be more discussion about managing costs, but I think it's more about producing a lot of things. But I think at the same time, there should be more conversations and more imagination towards how can we engineer or cut costs. But I think businesses sometimes are not always as good at that. They think in this very linear, if I do more sales, it will cover more of my expenses and give me this wider margin, which that part can be true, but you can also gain a lot of success. There's a lot of success stories about people who have looked at very good ways of being more efficient with the resources, where it led to better margins and better delta between your revenue and what your expenses are. And I think that part, I think with AI, there's real potential for that, but I think people are not really digging into it because they're looking at it from, how can I make more cat videos? How can I make more dog? Oh, now I can make dog and cat videos conveniently, you know?
Yeah, I think I know of somebody who agrees with you, Pierre. This is Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, right? Like, I think today I was listening to NPR, and the story actually says that jobs have not gone because of AI. We have gotten back to the time where the companies were before the pandemic. So it's not like people have said, like, I mean, people say that so that their stock price kind of goes up. The investors don't really understand what this is. But if you go by your argument and what Jensen Wang says, that if the company has more capability, they they will have better ideas for growth, which means with the same capacity they're going to be able to do more, which makes sense to me, right? Like even call centers and all, and that's what we see all the time with what enterprises are doing. It's only the hype part of it which says that, hey, like we don't need human beings anymore. That's probably not true at all. And I think he pushes back on a lot of CEOs who are saying, like, hey, I'm going to cut 400 people because of AI. That's probably not going to happen. What will happen is like a natural transition between the job that you're doing and the job you'll do later. For example, I publish a lot of articles nowadays, as probably Leyland does on small biz trends. My research time is actually reduced. Like instead of going to Google and going page by page and trying to figure out, now I can just do some deep research and say, here are all the questions that I have. Go find stuff. It's not 100% perfect, always hallucinates. I have to again repeat and ask, like, hey, can you check for hallucination? Can you check for plagiarism? Can you check for accuracy? And it will always find something. I mean, you would think by now people would say, like, hey, it should on its own go and create articles, and Shashi is just sitting and attending shows like this. That's not true at all. Now I'm going to address the SaaSocalypse that people are talking about. I used to work for Network Solutions. So before all the CRM and everything came about, Network Solutions had its own tool called CSR Tools. They built it. Every day there would be like 100 bug reports on what is not working. They had to put more people on it. And by the time they realized, like, hey, this is not worth it, we need to get Siebel. So that's exactly what will happen.
Yikes, Siebel. They spend some money then.
So for small businesses, don't think about, like, for example, if you want to give people an ordering system that they can order themselves, go for it, and then use the staff that you've saved to give them some better service, and maybe a better menu, expand your menu, things like that. Not necessarily to reduce headcount, is my opinion.
Can we think of like a general kind of step back and think about, so what we're seeing or what you guys are saying is like right now, when I don't know if you personally, but it's maybe small businesses in general, maybe you personally or not, when they think about AI, it's more around making money. They think it's going to make them more money if they use AI versus save them money. Is that what I'm hearing?
I feel that way a little bit, and I don't blame any one person for that either. I think it's sort of this AI. It's the way that AI got introduced is the same thing that people do when they introduce software in general, which is you're selling people on anything with sales and marketing really represents like an opportunity to grow the business, to get to people dream of having customers walking in, flocking and throwing their hands in the air and saying, hey, can I be your can
I give you some money? Because I really want to give you some money for stuff.
Yeah, you can solve the problem. You'll be able to provide for people, basically. I mean, I think that aspiration is always there, and it's part of selling a technology, frankly. But when you get into cost cutting, it's more of people don't get as excited about it because because of the word cutting, they think of it as ending something, and they don't want it to end, basically. So I think that there's a little psychology that goes into how technology is positioned. And I think to the point, there should be, I think it's great to say, hey, let's have all this opportunity. We need to also think in terms of, what can we be a little bit more efficient? Because AI, to be quite frankly, is a very good machine to be efficient with in terms of gaining efficiency. in terms of creating content and being efficient with the number of iterations that it takes to get within your workflow.
Well, it seems like, on the broader stage, even the reason why we are hearing all about this SaaS apocalypse stuff is because, and kind of why all the companies not all, I shouldn't say all, but a pretty good majority of the companies that I watch and kind of keep track, they are all building and investing in AI, and they're putting it into their, their platforms and all that. And yet, when it comes to their quarterly earnings calls, none of them can demonstrate the ROI on their own AI initiative. They aren't even able to show that they're making money with AI either, too. So it's not just the smaller companies. I mean, we're really just looking at a handful of companies that are getting the benefit of the doubt, like the NVIDIAs. And I think, let's put it like this. It's the AI pick and shovel makers, which is what I call these guys. And maybe the AI hyperscalers to a certain extent. They're not to a great extent, but a certain extent. The enterprise software companies, absolutely not. They haven't shown, at least the financial analyst community, that their investments in AI have returned actual dollars. So it's not just the small guys, apparently, that are not able to look at it from a increased revenue or increased profit. It's the biggest guys as well as the smallest guys. So how does that change? How do we change the whole kind of the look at the view of, we wanted to make money, we want to use it to make money, but we haven't been able to do it yet. And still there's these other opportunities that you guys are talking about that can be almost as important in terms of cost reduction. But I get it. I know small business, they think they already have this, they already have their costs reduced to the point where they're not, paying a whole lot, or at least they don't think they are. So they're always focused on the over the rainbow syndrome when it comes to any technology.
Yeah.
Well, AI.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, even these big companies, I mean, they have their missteps too. I mean, Microsoft has been putting AI into everything, and they have been panned. People are not necessarily the most, like, they want it, but they want it off to the side so that it's not like fully integrated into everything and they have to use it. Even NVIDIA, with all of their announcements, I don't know if you guys saw any of the gaming side of the announcements that they did. They introduced a technology called DLSS5.
Yep.
That was one of the big ones.
Oh my gosh,
They got
people
panned.
are hating it. They got hammered by that bad. And it's like, okay, these are the kings of AI at the moment, and they made a misstep. So it's like, if you're a small business, take that with your lesson and just be like, not every time when you integrate AI, if you were to put in an AI chatbot, I'm working with like my mortgage company, and I hate their little automated AI person that they talk to. It's
the agent.
yeah, their AI agent, and it's just like, ugh, no, gives me kind of the ick. I don't know, but it's like, work. If you're a small business, just work with what you've got. Try to use it as a way to shave off some time here or there. Maybe look into your own little AI chatbot for the simple things, not necessarily for the thing that's going to be like the silver bullet that's going to like bring in 1,000 customers or something like that, but something that can offload a little bit of time so that you have more time to talk to customers, using the AI that brought in a bunch of names for you to, and pre-qualified them for you and gave you like a good statement to kind of talk to them with, that's where I would go with like AI. So
Yeah, I have a pet peeve with most of how AI is being implemented, and I blame OpenAI for this. Traditionally, the companies that have actually used AI to become more profitable are like Meta, Google, Amazon. They've been doing it for a very long time. The right way to do it today, everybody is skipping two steps and going direct to generative. Like your example, Leland, of that thing, somebody sold this business a chatbot, and the chatbot answers to whatever it feels like it can answer, and not necessarily in the owner's voice. There is probably no connection between how the owner wants to do business and how the customers want to get their experience. So they're going to generative directly. The real power of AI is analytical and predictive. You're a restaurant, you have 1,000 emails, you want to figure out who's coming to your restaurant, who should get a discount coupon, how can you get. No small business is thinking of this, because the companies that are serving them, there are not too many companies who are telling them, hey, we'll increase your revenue if your per seat revenue is $30 per person who comes to your restaurant. We can actually increase it to $35 by doing this, and AI can give you some suggestions based on your own data. Earlier it was very difficult for businesses to do this, but now you can actually go to any small company that can train small models based on your data. So you don't have to go to Chat GPT or the next version of anything that comes up. Now, I feel strongly that Anthropic is probably going to make it easy for people to do it themselves a little bit. Like, hey, you upload your entire sheets and I'll give you a plan. That's the analytical and predictive part of it, not the gimmicky, like I posted about, I think you all must have heard about the robot gone wild in a hot pot restaurant in, I think, San Francisco. The robot won't stop, and this the service person is trying to track that robot because it's not ready. I mean, robotics is a very complicated thing. It's not like our all our cars are being in some way assembled by robots. Amazon orders that you receive are in some way your article actually moved by robots. So they're all far advanced, but they're not saying, we'll give you a nice, cute robot, talk to the robot and be happy. No, I mean, I think use your data, use it for predictions, increase your revenue, right?
Yeah.
And generative will come later.
I'll add real quickly too. I think what Shashi brought up a real good point about the robot too. I think this whole thing with AI is really experimental. It's data driven because you start, I think you have a lot of data that you use to help train your model, basically. In fact, I'm starting to be more of a proponent of the small language models because you have an opportunity to train those to what you want. But that also means, I think, what businesses are realizing with the example with the robot is that your customer experience is starting to get a little bit experimental, and you need to kind of think through a little bit about what that experiment looks like. And that's something that can be almost very anti-business in some ways too, because businesses are supposed to bring, and it's supposed to be certainty. You go to a particular brand because you know that their food is excellent, or you know that your car repair is going to be excellent. And with AI, there's a little bit of experimentation to not only implement an assistant to help serve your customers, but to make sure that you're doing this with knowing the back of your head that there's going to be some error in there. Like the example with the robot is a clear one, basically. So I think it's going to force people to learn not only how to experiment, but I think also thinking about, what is the customer experience for my business? Because, we've always thought about it in terms of websites and apps. Now it's something a little bit more, these digital pieces are now more physical when you start thinking about AI connected to a device to deliver something to a customer, or AI connected through a robot to deliver something to a customer.
I think let's go back to what our friend, Madam Mike Drop herself, always says. It's always about the customer and the customer experience. And there are certain, there's a lot of people, I don't know if it's a majority, but there's a lot of people who own a business and they want to use technology to avoid talking, engaging with their customers. And so they're always looking at certain things as, oh, that's going to be my silver bullet, so that I don't have to engage. I just want their money. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of folks that just want the money. We understand that. But if you really want the money, you should really want to understand how you're going to get it from the customers that you have. And that means really engaging, really understanding, really using technology to have a better understanding of where your customers want to go and be able to be there before they get there, because they really would love to work with people who they view understands them and has put in a time and effort to really understand what they need. So if you're using or looking at a technology that basically the hardest part of the job is to pull out your credit card and buy it and then expect it to do all the work that you detest, it never works. I don't care what technology it is. You can go throughout the decades. What technology that has completely replaced fully having a great relationship with your customer? None. But if you use the technology to do that, you usually end up having customers for life. But some people just don't want to take the time to do it. They'd rather spend the dime than to take the time. Ooh, can I mic drop myself?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Mic drop myself.
There you go, Brett.
I don't think I did that before. But I mean, it just feels like that's the case. They buy it, they get interested in it because they think that will allow them to avoid the parts of their business that they just really don't like. And some of that is, talking with your customers. I don't think that's a good way to go. So
Yeah, but you can utilize technology to, again, better understand your customers and to better talk to your customers. I mean, you're never going to get away from talking to customers, even like if you were like, well, I'm just going to sell online. No, you still got to talk to customers in one way or another. You got to be online. You got to be promoting your business. You got to be on social media. You can't just like get a shop on Shopify and put it out there and then just walk away and expect sales. You actually have to promote your business in one way or another, and that involves talking to your customers, even if it's not like face-to-face one-on-one. It's still talking on social media. It's making content. It's engaging in the comment section. Or if you have a brick and mortar, you gotta talk to the customers as they come in and see what they like, what they don't like. If you have a plumbing business or something like that, you got to go to the house. You got to talk to them, and you have to be able to find customers. So usually, like, word of mouth is a good way to do it. And if you got, your word of mouth is, oh yeah, he's kind of reclusive. He come in and he grunted when he's like, and did his work and he left. It's not good customer experience. So yeah.
Just a note on what you said, Leland. Like, I've seen some savvy, not plumbers but roofers, right? They use the data of when a house was built, so they know which areas are more than 20 years, right? And some of them even take satellite pictures so that they're inspecting the roof even before, like, they need to go to the house and actually telling them, like, hey, here's a picture of your roof. Would you like to do it now, or do you want to wait for it to leak? That, I think, is the analytical and predictive part of things that you do. Like, for example, you mentioned plumber, right? If you go to any top like national chain of plumbing, you have this chatbot. You answer 15 questions, and after that, they'll say, we'll call you back. My plumber, I text him. He says, give me a picture of what you see. I give him a picture. He says, I'm coming tomorrow at 1:00. But it doesn't mean he doesn't use AI. He has like billing and everything else. He uses technology, obviously, right? And I'm sure he also manages like all these new things that are coming, instant hot water and all that stuff. So I think savvy small businesses decide where they need technology and where they don't. I don't think they should say like AI is going to solve me from speaking to people. Maybe, yeah, instead of talking to them, text them if you don't like talking to them.
Yeah. And your plumbing example, it's like, I just texted my plumber. Now, the smart thing is to not just have your phone, but to have it go through like a messaging service. That way, one, the contact information goes into your CRM, and it's like, oh, it's Shashi. Shashi's calling me, and he has a problem. It's logged in your CRM, and then you have the ability to get reminders, because I know that I have missed emails. I know that I have missed phone calls, and it would be nice to just have like a little piece of technology. And I get that like within Gmail, to where it's just like, hey, this person emailed you like 3 days ago. You haven't replied. Maybe you should reply to them. That's very beneficial, and it would be very beneficial to a small business owner to be like, hey, Shashi texted you like a day ago and you didn't reply back. You might want to, or else you're going to lose a sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that note, Google has an AI in Gmail that's in beta. It's called, I think, Elsa or CC. So I'm telling you, every morning you get an email saying, here are all the emails you should pay attention to. And sometimes, like, really good friends have emailed me, but I just missed their email. And it'll say, like, hey, like you said, Lennon, you need to respond to this. You have $30 credit with this company. Do something with it. Really useful tool. I wish they don't abandon it.
You know, there's so many of those little things that are in there that sometimes they just show up and they kind of creep into your workflow. I wonder if that kind of creeping into the workflow discounts the importance of it to people, because it's there and it just kind of shows up. Next thing you know, they're just kind of taking it for granted. And
Yeah,
they don't really look at it as, you know, a bigger piece to the AI puzzle. It's like, okay, that's there. Oh, that's AI. Oh, okay. Oh, sure, I use it. Because they're always focusing on the AI that really hasn't happened yet, because it's the AI that's the pie in the sky. Oh, this is how you make money. And because they're always looking for this when it comes to AI, they're missing all these other things that are actually AI and helping them and discounting them, and not really seeing the full picture of what is going on with the AI that is actually right there in their, in this case, in their in basket.
yeah. I can imagine. To your point about the email a little bit, I think people are starting to socially engineer ways around trying to get it's part of socially engineering your way to get attention. I could tell you people who send an email to me, and sometimes they only get a snippet of my background. They just need a snippet to say, hey, Pierre, I noticed you wrote for CMS Wire about this topic. Well, our company, we do yada, 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 yada. And then on top of that, they'll send within maybe a day, if I haven't responded, hey, Mr. Du Bois, we want you to, we just want to put this on the top of your inbox without really even understanding what's going on in my day. So I think, and to make it worse is that I try not to get frustrated, because I know there's automation going on somewhere in there, basically. Sometimes they get that little snippet about me wrong. It could be something old, like, hey, Pierre, you've worked at Ford, and not realizing that's been almost now 20 years ago. So
Damn.
I say all this to say, hey, yeah, I think people are I think they're trying to figure out with automation. I think this goes back to full circle to what we were talking about earlier, how much that they're trying to use it, but they're not really using it for cost cutting, but try to expand sales, and in the process probably using it in a way that frankly is wrong, or something a little more intrusive than it should be.
I know, Shashi, you got to get ready to go. But do you have any last words before you head out?
No, I think technology is a good tool. Use it exactly like a tool and not a replacement. Thanks, everyone.
All right, man. See you next week.
See you next week.
All right. Well, we are getting close to the edge. Not the edge.
So like the group Genesis, it was 3.
It's not like there's a life or death thing going on. I'm not going that far. But how do we get small businesses to adjust their way of thinking when it comes to AI, so that they do feel like it is something that they can heavily benefit from? Because I feel like the emphasis is so heavily on using AI for new leads, new customers. I'm not saying that can't happen, but I think if you think of it in just those terms, you're going to be completely disappointed and maybe disenchanted with it overall.
Yeah, for me, I think I go back to analytics a little bit in that a lot of times people hear these things like, this could improve your sales or help you to build to meet this objective. But to do it, you need to organize the steps. And for every technology, there's always a huge curve, this effort curve that's high, and it drops off over time because you're learning how to use it more effectively. And I think what I usually do with clients is to try to walk them through that curve as much as possible, which is, don't make it a general thing like, hey, I want more sales. You need to define it a little bit more. I want more sales through these customers using these things. I think as you get more specific, I think that helps narrow down what you're able to do with the technology and where you're able to explore. And I think that would help people with AI. For software, there's just a lot of tools out here that can help you do certain things, but you only see it in isolation rather than in multiple steps, which is what you need to see to get a strategy really off the ground. So I usually just tell people, yes, it's going to be some wheel spin. It takes a while for the wheels to get traction. You're going to blow some smoke like a muscle car, but you still need to sit down and, eventually those wheels are going to lock. And what we're trying to do is get some detail from you to help figure out what to lock. Real quick example, I had a client where we thought we were going to use our programming for them, but going back through Excel and then going back how they were organized, we found that just using simply Excel for what they were trying to do would have been a lot simpler, and just having a schedule for it. Eventually, we're going to get back to something more programmatic, which leads to the AI part. But you got to meet people where they are in terms of what they're willing to experiment with, because they only have so many resources to tap into.
I think that, these big companies need to integrate AI into their tools, and they need to make it simple too. And it's one of those things where you have a business and they're busy. What Pierre talked about with that difficulty curve. And yeah, if they were to sit down and if they were to spend weeks, maybe months trying to learn this technology, the difficulty is going to go down. But most small business owners don't have the time, or they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to have to learn something that complex, which, in a year or a couple months, it might change completely. They're going to want to use the tools that they're using currently, and they're going to want to have it integrated, and it's going to be something that they don't maybe even have to activate. It's just like all of a sudden there's a new tab that says, inventory management, and it shows, hey, based off of your sales, this is where I see that your inventory is. Hey, do you want me to reorder, product X, because you're kind of getting low, and if we reorder it now, you're not going to run out. But if we wait any little bit longer, that's where I would love to see AI incorporated in businesses and in technology is ways that it just saves time, money, and also makes the business run smoother. That would basically make it to where the small business owner doesn't lose out on money, because if you think of a restaurant and it's just like all of a sudden, well, we're out of filet mignons because we didn't know that we were out. Well, now no one can order that filet mignon, and people come to the restaurant disappointed, and they lose sales. They potentially lose customers because their favorite food is gone. That's how I'd like to see it integrated. It's something that is quick, it's easy, people don't have to think about, and it just works.
Yeah. And I don't want to dismiss the whole idea of it can help you, get customers or get business. Because you do hear some of these stories of people that have done, like they created a whole new kind of business offering or business model or service based on what, putting the AI together for new workflows or new kind of infrastructure plumbing for a new idea. And it's not just about content creation. It's about actually doing workflow automations and process flows and coming up with something they could have never done before. I feel there's a lot of more stories like that as opposed to the let me show you how to create content that will, I mean, yeah, we know there's a lot of stuff, and let's face it, a lot of that stuff really doesn't work. But there are some really good use cases that you can put together with AI that opens up new doors. It just feels like we're we're right now as a whole concentrating on the 2 or 3 use cases where there are tons of other ones that might actually get you to where you want to go. But right now, we aren't seeing a lot of those examples because we're seeing is the orange gorillas and stuff like that. So they're there. I think it's important for all of us to look at this. This is a great technology.
Yeah,
it is what you make of it. It is what you conceive. And if we all able to take a step back and really think bigger, then we will start seeing how we could use this and make money as opposed to just an efficiency play. But I think they're both, and maybe it just takes some time for every one of us as we get used to it and have more of our hands on it. We're able to see a much bigger picture, or even a newer picture, because these things are allowing us to do stuff maybe we just never thought of. It just takes time for us to start thinking like that. Hopefully we'll see it at some point. Yeah. Oh, look, I got a mic drop from Ivana. Oh man.
All right. Well, with her not here, someone had to do it, right?
Yeah.
Better, and who but her to give us okay. All right. Any last thoughts before we get out of here for another week?
I'd say enjoy the weekend, enjoy the spring. I think Chicago Henge or the Chicago version of Stonehenge is this weekend, where there's a thing where people sit at a certain block in downtown Chicago and they watch the sun at a certain time. I think 7 p.m. It's kind of like a Stonehenge type of thing. I think that's this weekend. Go enjoy yourself, and don't worry, these problems will be here starting Monday.
That's a very nice way of putting things there, Pierre.
with love.
I like it. Yeah. Go out, enjoy the weekend, enjoy the beautiful weather. You've earned it after a nice harsh winter, for half of the nation at least. But yeah, don't overwork. Do the work when you need to do the work. Don't overwork yourself, or else you're not going to be able to do the work when you need to do the work.
Wow, he got all philosophical on there. I'm going to take the W, since Ivana has given me the mic drop this week, and I'll just say enjoy the first weekend of spring. Man, we're already in springtime in 2026. That's great. All right, we will see you next week. Hope you have a good one. See you.